Friends, fans, and fine folk, grab your drinks and snacks and come on down around the campfire with me and my friend Derrick. Hello, Derrick. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Doing, I'm doing great, Robert. Thanks for having me. It's been really fun to hang out on your streams from time to time when I have time. Usually they're during my work day,
Yeah,
so I drop in when
yeah.
I
Great
can.
time,
But
great time zone crossover. It's always good to
exactly.
see you pop into the
But
chat.
yeah, when I can, I do. And got to shout out my friend, the Fancy Unicorn Fancy, for gifting me a sub a while back, and just in
Thank you very
general
much,
being
Fancy.
a really great mod. So yeah.
So welcome in. Well, we'll get into what you do later, but first, let's actually set up this camp, this short rest. Pointless having a short rest without knowing, like, with the imagination we've both got as dungeon masters. What are we got? What are we gonna do if we don't set up the campfire? So what are we in the middle of? What do we need a short rest from? Are we on like a mission? Are we on a quest, or are we between missions?
Yeah, so I think we just got back from delving into this underground beehive of these giant green bees. We were looking for this key to a wizard's tower,
Yes.
and I think that's what we just dealt with.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Cool. I love it. Yeah, we were looking for a key, and it was down there because it was the Archibald the Archduke or
Archmage.
something. Archmage had lost a key, and we had to go and claim it back from it at the end of a beehive. It turned out to be a surprisingly difficult dungeon, I think, and so we need a short rest before we go. Maybe we're about to go into the final chamber to deal with the biggest bee of them all. And what's our campfire look like then in this underground beehive situation? Are we around a fire,
Well,
or are we just like huddled?
we might be burning giant bee carcasses.
We're burning,
I
we're smoking them out, yeah, because bees don't like smoke, right? So
yeah,
we've put a big bonfire together of all the bees that we've slaughtered so far, and we're trying
exactly.
to use the smoke from that to keep the other bees away, so that we can have a little rest. What are we?
Have some roasted honey.
Yeah, what are we eating and drinking in this short rest?
Probably some honey that we found, some
Definitely,
nectar.
yeah, definitely.
Who knows what else they've got in there, but whatever we can find.
Just drinking as much of the nectar and eating as much of the honey as we can. Awesome. Sounds like a good place to do it. And if anybody doesn't know this seemingly in joke that we're talking about, it's because you haven't listened to my episode of the wonderful podcast How Not to DM. Go and check it out, and you'll know what we're talking about. So let's begin with talking about the name of the podcast. Obviously, it's a pretty self-explanatory one, but is there any other stories there, or anything that? What was the process of deciding and landing on what the podcast name was going to be?
Yeah, it was really just stumbling into it. I have since learned that Dragon Talk, the official D&D podcast, has a segment that they do every month or so called How to DM. So it was not intentionally, opposite of that.
Parodying that.
Yeah, but it just turns out that it is. So I started initially at the beginning of 2021. I was thinking, all right, this pandemic thing is not anywhere close to ending, and so what am I gonna do to keep up my love for tabletop role playing games and to keep engaged in it without being able to play as regularly as I like to?
Mm-hmm.
So I started with a Google Doc, and I was like, I'm gonna send people a Google Doc, and they're gonna fill it out like homework, and they're gonna return it to me, and I'll post it as a blog article. And it had similar questions to what I ask my guests now.
Right.
And that lasted for a few people until one person, my friend Cade, who's here in the same state as me in the States, he said, why don't we just record this? Because he was a podcaster as well. So we recorded it, and then after I had the audio, I thought, how hard would it be to just publish this as a show? And so that's how it came to be. So the naming came first, and then the podcast kind of was a result of me reaching out to people and trying to get some people to chat with me about learning how to run games and what to do and what not to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really where it came
So it
from.
seems a good idea for a concept for a show, because obviously, as you say, there are things that do how to GM. There's lots of different tips about like what things you should do, and obviously those things might talk about by nature, they might touch on what not to do, but to focus on like what not to do, what are some mistakes you've made, because I've always sort of had the mantra, as it were, of like, everybody makes mistakes. If you learn from them, it sets you apart from the others. And if you learn from other people's mistakes, you're a step ahead. Like you so it makes sense that that's is that a thought you've had for a while? Is that what was the original concept of why you would focus your show around that, or the questionnaire around that as it started out?
Right. Yeah. So it was a result of me listening to actual plays, watching streams of actual plays, that kind of thing. And really, because I was interested in running games and had been doing it, paying attention to what all of these streaming and podcast DMs were doing and weren't doing. And there's definitely like DMs out there who will tell you that they've made tons of mistakes on stream or recording live, and I'm sure you're one of them. But I loved like learning little tips and tricks from them just by like paying attention to what they did and saying, "Hey, that's a good idea. I want to use that." Or I really like the way they laid out this interaction, or I would have done something different, but and then these are the reasons why in my head, kind of thing. So yeah, it was really like me studying, I guess you could say, other DMs and their work and saying it would be really fun to chat with them and ask them, "Hey, I've noticed X, Y, and Z about the way you run games. Is it intentional? Also, what things have you done, that worked really well, and what things have you done that didn't work well, or that you feel like are mistakes that we could all learn from?" Because like you said, it's great to learn from your own mistakes, and it's even better to learn from someone else's, so you don't have to go down that same path of pain yourself.
Yeah. And it's pretty much how I started out as well. Like, started a lot of my influence on my DMing style and stuff came from learning from other people's mistakes through Reddit. A lot of it is like I would troll through a bunch of different Reddit D&D threads and subreddits and stuff, and things like there's one called TTRPG horror stories or something, and it's like, and it's people posting stuff where it's like, I had a horrible session with this happened and this happened, and the DM was this, and the players were these, and you're just like, you're picking up on stories being like, okay, don't be like that because people hate it. you're looking in the threads and the comments being like, that's the worst, I hate it when that happens in a game, and you're like, okay, noted. People hate it when you do this and when you do that, and this is not how you should be DMing. And you pick up from that very, very easily, like certain ubiquitous tips around DMing.
That would be a great show too, is just going and talking to the people who've made those horror story posts and like breaking down the actual like backstory and stuff.
Yeah, what actually happened.
You've given me some ideas. I don't know if I have time to do it, but it would be good.
So you started out, your friend was like, why don't we record it? That turned it into a podcast. And then had you ever done anything podcasty related before?
Not, well, I don't think it exists anymore, but my friend and I recorded one episode one time on his bed in our college apartment. We had this little sports blog that we ran together, covering local sports teams and our university sports teams. So our American football team and our basketball team, and then we have a local soccer team here, or football team, but depending on where you are. I'm sorry, the rest of the world. I know we call it soccer. Anyway. So we had this sports blog, and we were like interviewing people online, and we would Facebook message people to get interviews and stuff. But we decided we were gonna record like one episode of a podcast and just tried it. But I feel like the interviewing stuff is definitely a big influence on why I thought a podcast would be a fun format to do that. More so than just like recording on his iPhone one episode about like which players the United States men's soccer team was going to be calling up for this international window for whatever. So for those of you who had no idea what I was talking about, that's okay. This isn't that's it for sports talk today.
Sport ball.
Yeah, that's
sports.
I think that's where I really fell in love with interviews. I also did a semester's worth of work for my university's newspaper. Right. Yeah, those two things really taught me about interviews, taught me kind of how to do it well, and then I thought I wanted to start making some kind of content in the TTRPG space. An interview just seemed like a really natural thing to do, since I already had the experience doing it.
Yeah. That makes sense. I know very well the experience of recording podcasts from a friend's bed. For a whole year, we did a weekly podcast about anime from my friend's bedroom.
Oh, yeah. What's it called again? You mentioned it
It
the
was
other day.
it was called "Keep Your Friends Close and Your Animes Closer."
That's right. You were talking with William about it, huh?
Which
That's
is
right. Yeah, that's
which
classic.
is a very funny pun about anime, but not the greatest SEO. Not the greatest for. I mean, we often use the acronym KIFKAYAK because that's what it became. But yeah,
Nice, nice.
it's I mean it's unique, but it wasn't really getting out there, and none of us knew really how marketing worked or how to actually promote it or anything like that. We were just shouting into the ether of like podcast subreddits and stuff. But hey, it was fun while it lasted. So you started out you've got your podcast coming, How Not to DM. What was your first sort of decisions that had to be made regarding it? You had to start get some guests up. Did you start with just approaching people that you'd already worked with, or did you like start pushing yourself to people on Twitter? What were your early days of the podcast?
Yeah. First thing was, should I have a website? And I set up a really crappy one on Wix. You could probably find it if you dig, but don't go there because I'm gonna have a new one soon. I designed a logo on some site. It might have been Canva, but I don't think so because I can't find it. And the old logo is gone too. And
I
then
really
yeah,
like I really like this logo. This one down
it's a
here.
nice one.
Yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
one.
Also Canva. Canva's so good.
You designed
For
this?
people who are just trying to do free stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
It's good.
It's it's been good practice at least to kind of like teach myself how to do
Yeah.
stuff like that. But anyway, yeah, the first few people I sent the Google Doc to before I transitioned to recording were like friends, right? Like my brother ran games for me, so I sent it to him, and Julia, the first person who ever ran games for me, I sent it to her. I just sent it to like people I knew in my like actual friend circle.
Mm-hmm.
But then after I created a Twitter account and started kind of like finding this online TTRPG community, then I did start branching out to people. So Cade, my first actual guest, I didn't actually know him. I've met up with him since, and he's awesome and super fun, and he makes a lot of funny TikToks. You should go check him out. But he was the first person I reached out to cold, like, hey, I've never done this, but like, I don't know you. Do you want to chat about running games? And he said, sure. And that's been really a theme since then. I want to say like probably between 60 and 70% of people I reach out to say, sure, I'll be on your show. That sounds like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
fun. Probably 20 to 30% don't respond, and then 10% respectfully decline. So
Right.
it's been actually like a high percentage return on investment. For those of you who've done like email marketing or cold
Yeah,
calling or anything,
yeah,
like
yeah,
it's way more than that. So
yeah.
yeah,
I guess there's something about it that people just enjoy this game. They enjoy the hobby, and so they're like, I mean, yeah, let's talk about it. I've always wanted to talk about it with more people, and fewer people in my life care about it than I would like. So I don't get to talk about it that much. And so somebody reaches out and
exactly.
is like, "Do you want to talk about D&D for a bit?" And people are like, "Yeah, hell yeah, I want to talk about D&D for a bit."
Exactly. I think you hit the nail on the head there.
And how did you go about deciding on your guests? You just were trolling Twitter, just being like, maybe this guy.
Yeah, initially it was that, and then I had to get more selective, for better and for worse. Better because I feel like by being more selective, I've found like really interesting people who have really um, niche experiences that they can talk about. But also for worse because there's a ton of really interesting people who I think deserve recognition and deserve some airtime to talk about stuff. I've actually tried to. Um, I've tried to can't think of the word that I want right now, but I've tried to find a way
Velociraptor.
around that by highlighting people on Twitter now. So like every day, I'm gonna just tweet at a different person and say, "Hey, tell me about your world. Tell me about this and that," and kind of ask them a
Right.
few of the questions I would normally ask. So
Yeah.
I don't know why it took me a year and a half to think of like, hey, maybe I should just ask people on the internet instead of record. So I'm going to be doing that from now on, and a lot of people who I haven't gotten to, I guess yet, I'm going to probably start with them and then work my way through. But yeah, the people I reach out to like you said, I look around. I number one, I chat with people whose work I'm familiar with or whose work
Yeah.
I'm interested in,
Yeah.
and then number two, people who I don't know who I've interacted with online and really enjoy, and I can tell that they're good people and they interact with the community and are genuine and that kind of thing. That's
Yeah.
kind of what I look for. So yeah.
That's good. Yeah, yeah. It's similar to my short rests. I've got no end of possible guests for short rest, but I like to start with the people that I've actually worked with or been familiar with their work or what have you. Cool. So let's start. Let's sort of jump back a little bit to before you had the podcast and talk about how you got into D&D in the first place. Like, what was your input to the game?
Yeah. So, like I said, my first DM was Julia. She was starting a Curse of Strahd game, and two of my coworkers were in on it. And they invited my brother for a session. And then after I heard they were playing, I was like, well, I want in on it too. He was actually working with us at the time, my brother was. So I got invited.
So you knew? Did
Went
you
on.
know about D&D at the time that your brother was playing, or were you hearing about it through your brother?
Yeah, good question. So I knew about it, like I'd heard of it before, but I didn't really have a concept of what it was. I just knew that it was nerdy, and I'm nerdy, and
Yeah.
so I thought, well, that can't be that hard to figure out, right?
Yeah.
I knew it was kind of mostly high fantasy. I didn't really know there were so many different settings and stuff that I've learned about
Yeah.
since.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't have a ton of exposure, and as soon as I got invited to the game, went online, I found one of those character should you play quizzes, and it asks you 20 questions and
Yeah.
then tells you. And so I made a dragonborn druid, probably not a min-max a min-max character to build, but it was fun.
Yeah.
Then I watched a bunch of YouTube videos about people who were like explaining to like, if you're brand new, how do you play? And so that's where I went. I just went
Right.
and watched those while I was working to kind of figure it out. So yeah, that was my introduction. The game lasted 3 or 4 sessions before it fizzled out, unfortunately. So I still have never finished Curse of Strahd. I know
many do.
everyone loves it.
Yeah.
Yeah, as many do. Many since then have done the same thing, right? But I've never played through Curse of Strahd, so I don't know what happens. Which will be nice for if I ever decide to run it or play in it. But
Yeah,
I know people are
give
gonna.
yourselves a surprise. I've started playing in as a player in Storm King's Thunder twice, and I've never gotten past like the first couple of chapters because either they fizzle out, but often they'll with modules, I find often they'll like divert into homebrew stuff very quickly, because people will be like, oh, I want to just, I guess I'll put in this other thing, and then you go and explore that other thing, and then they're like, I'm having more fun with the homebrew than the module, and you just never get back to the module, and so
Yes.
that
Started
happens,
that
and then they
too.
fizzle out as well. So I know what happens at the very beginning of Storm King's Thunder and nothing else. And despite all of these books behind me, I've never actually played through any of them. Never played through the modules of like any of the settings like Eberron. I've never played in the Theros, the Mythic Guide of Theros or whatever it is, Strixhaven. None of them. Just have them to look good.
One day, right?
Yeah, one day I'll have a chance to open them up if they stop bringing out like 7 new books a year. Just never have time to keep up with all of the content they're bringing out. And now, of course, Spelljammer is coming out.
What are you reading right now? You were gonna read Volos, right? Are you still in Volos?
Yeah, so I was.
Yeah.
No, we finished Volos. So I've on Robert Reed's. I've finished the Monster Manual, Volo's Guide to Monsters, Tasha's Cauldron, Xanathar's Guide. We finished all of those, and then I was gonna start with Fizban's whatever of Dragons, and then I committed myself to running a Pathfinder game for a friend. Long story short, I kind of lost a bet, and so I did. I was like teasing a friend about how Pathfinder's worse than D&D, but I was doing so just to tease him because I never actually played Pathfinder, so I didn't know for sure. And then I was like, fine, I'll run a game for you to see what Pathfinder's actually like. And now I'm reading through the Pathfinder first edition rule set.
Nice. Yeah, and you're so far behind, right? Like you've got so many books to catch up on.
Yeah, so many.
Insane.
Yeah, so many. So I'm getting pretty well through the Pathfinder first edition rule set, but just the core rules, because as he keeps mentioning, this friend, he keeps popping into the chat as I'm reading, and I'm like, oh, I'm almost done with the races, and he's like, no, you've almost started with the races. You've almost finished reading the races of the core rule set, and then I'm like, I'm almost done with reading about the classes, and he's like, no. No. There are about 2 dozen different classes to choose from in Pathfinder, and you've read just the first 10 of that come in the core rulebook and stuff. Yeah, 2 dozen might even be underselling it. Genuinely, it might be like 3 dozen or so. They introduced so many different ones. There was a lot of like power creep and lots of like additions and things. They just kept chucking out there. Yeah, it's involved. It's as involved as people say. It's very crunchy, and lots of. But the kind of the draw of it, the appeal of it, I guess, is that if you have already played TTRPGs and you are already familiar with the general concept of how one works, then you're not going to be quite as off-put as if you were just brand new to the game. And then you go to Pathfinder and you create the exact character that you want. So they've got all those different races, they've got all the different classes, all the different subclasses, and all that stuff, so that you can really focus in on creating the exact character that you want and customizing them with feats and spells and things. Very modular character building.
I've heard as much. I have a Starfinder book and I have a Pathfinder book in PDF. I've gotten around to it, just like you said. So many books to read.
I've played Pathfinder Starfinder, a couple times. That was quite fun, but yeah, very involved as well. Lots of different like armor classes, whether you're getting shot with a laser weapon or whether you're getting hit with a melee weapon and things. Yeah, but hey, it's important to get out there and expand your horizons as a DM GM, just to see what else is out there. See if there's any different rules that you can take on board for your own games. Do you homebrew stuff yourself when you're DMing? Do you stick to modules mostly, or?
Mostly homebrew, yeah. I do like modules, and when I'm a player, most of the time what I've played is modules. Well, I get probably half the time I've played modules, the other half is homebrew. But yeah, most of the stuff I run is homebrew. I feel like the draw to DMing wasn't so much to me. Like when I started with Lost Mine of Phandelver as a player, I mean after that Curse of Strahd game fizzled out, that's what we settled on. And so that was my introduction. But from there, it's just kind of open-ended. There's nothing that bolts onto the end of it. So when I ran my first games as a DM for my current group, it was Lost Mine, and then from there have just been homebrewing since. So
was it pretty was it pretty quickly that you jumped into DMing? Like you were a player in Strahd, then Lost Mines, and then you went into DMing?
Exactly. We were playing at work at lunch. We play like 2 or 3 times a week during lunch.
Right.
I'm sure everybody was like, "What are they doing?" We were all in a conference room, and our map was the whiteboard on the wall.
Nice.
And there were like 8 of us in the party
nice.
And stuff. My brother was running that.
And you got to get through as much as you can in just a hour lunch time.
Yeah. Probably would have done it differently, but it's okay. We had fun.
So you were saying you were jumping into your DM.
We finished Lost Mine. Midway through playing Lost Mine, as a player, I said, I want to do this DMing thing. So I started a Google Doc, started writing a like 3-shot-ish kind of adventure. Like, ooh, I bet I could do this DMing thing. So I started just putting together my idea about, okay, we're going to go to this town to the south. There's going to be a cult that's trying to raise a demon, and you got to figure out who's part of the cult and stop them before they perform the ritual on the bonfire on the eve of the autumnal solstice. Anyway. So those were all my ideas, all very classic tropey kind of ideas, but it turned out to be really fun. So
tropes
I wrote
for a reason. I mean, tropes for a reason, because people can jump into that story and they go, I know what I've got to do. Like, I've seen this sort of thing before. I know how this story's meant to work. I know what track to follow. We've got to stop those bad guys. Yeah.
Wrote that. We played through that. Then immediately after, I said, all right, I needed my own home group. So committed my partner. She said, sure, I'll play if you get other people to play. Got my old college roommate and his partner, and one of my brothers to show up, and we started playing. Since then, my roommate's wife has dropped off. My other brother has come on, and another person has joined. So I have 5 players in the current game. But I started with Lost Mine there, and then homebrewed since. They're at level 11 now,
Nice.
And yeah, it's been all homebrew from levels 5 to 11. So
What do you
yeah.
find about the numbers? You say you played with like 8 in your lunchtime hours, and then you got to 5 in your home game. What's your favorite party size?
No, I love 3.
Mm.
I love 3 players. I know like the typical party is 4 because you want to fill certain gaps. But the times where I've been a player with 3 people or been a DM running a game
Hmm.
for 3 people, it's so fun and everyone gets that much
Yeah.
more time
Oh yeah.
to do stuff. You get to focus that much more on each individual person and the ideas they have for their character and the stuff they want to go try to do. So yeah, I think 3 honestly, like if I was starting a new group, it would be that.
Yeah.
But 5 is totally manageable. We still have a ton of fun, and I'm not saying to my group that I'm gonna cut 2 of them anytime soon. So
Yeah,
anyway,
I agree. Like a lot of people I've talked to lately have seemed to have more of an interest in slightly bigger groups, but I've always been fond of small groups. I've always said that 3 people is a fantastic amount. I'd say I'm perfectly happy with 4 or 3. 5 is okay often, like most of the time 5 will be okay. It can get a little bit awkward if you've not got quite a good gelling group. If there's one person in particular that's kind of like a little bit more attention hoggy or something in that group of 5, then you get you start feeling like the other 4 aren't getting enough to do and things like that. And or if you've got like if all of them have particularly involved or min-maxed characters, it comes to combat and suddenly they've got a lot of things that each of them can do on their turn because that's how they've built their character to be super involved. And then combat can get a little bit long with 5 if that happens. But yeah, 3,
yes.
4, or 5 I think is the perfect amount. 3, 4, or 5. And then 2 you can do, but you've got to be very careful about TPKs because it's yeah anything 2 or 1 solo campaigns as well. Very very
Very
easy to
swingy,
TPK,
right?
very swingy.
Yes.
And then 6 is getting into the territory of like it's just too many. It's too many people to handle everybody getting like time to shine within the 3 hour game that you've actually got time for. I've
And
played
whenever
with
there's a stream of 6 players, I'm always like,
yes,
how
I'm
are
like
you
I don't,
doing that?
it's too much too. And on a stream as well, you've got the DM and 6 players and like a map or some other graphic on the screen. And you're like, who are these people? What's going on? On your phone,
Yeah.
and you're like, why are they not? I can't see anything that they're doing. Yeah.
Not to knock anybody who's done it,
No,
but
I mean some people
I
can
would
make it
definitely
work.
not want to.
Obviously, Critical Role makes it work with like 7,
True.
sometimes 8 players, because they're all professional actors and they all understand the nature of like I might be sitting here silently for 20 minutes because that guy's got a scene now. Then it's important to give him the spotlight for the scene, and then after his scene, it might be somebody else's. And because Matt Mercer's such a good DM, he usually keeps a track of like trying to balance all of them and give each of them a time to shine and stuff. So it can be done, but it requires certain skills. I think the more people you have, or the fewer people you have outside of that median of 4. So how long ago was this? How long did you start your first DMing?
Let's see. I always forget. I would have started this job in the spring of 2018, and so I would have started playing in the autumn or winter of 2018.
Right.
So started playing then. Probably started running games January 2019 is my guess.
Pretty quickly. And why did you step up? Like the other thing kind of ended and people were just like looking, hey, who wants to go next? Or were you like, can I please? Did you volunteer? Were you like,
Yeah.
I feel like I have the right sort of personality to take it over. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I felt the calling, right? I
Yeah.
felt the tap
Yeah.
on my shoulder. Like I said, we were halfway through Lost Mine, and I thought I want to do this. So I
I want to
started
do it.
writing
Yeah.
something, and I said, as soon as we're done, I'm gonna run something, and
Nice.
we're
Yeah.
gonna move to the south and play this little thing. So yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly
it
that.
happens in one of 2 ways, doesn't it? Like sometimes it happens out of necessity. One of you needs to step up, so you're like, "Ah, I guess I'll do it, and then it happens the other time. Like with me and you, it seems there's that. As soon as you start playing, you're like, I need to DM. I need to be behind the
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, I definitely felt that as well. A friend of mine saw it in me as well. That's how I started. I was a player in his game. His game started to fizzle a little bit, and he needed a break from it or something. And he said, "Hey Rob, I feel like you want to DM. What with you having gone out and bought all of the books and everything immediately and gotten thrown yourself headfirst into it. Do you want to take over and try your hand at DMing? And I was like, yeah, sure, let's give it a go. Yeah, a lot of fun.
If you want to hear Rob's full story, you can check out the episode that he and I had where he talks about it. Yeah,
check it out. So so let's turn it back on you, and you tell me what some mistakes you made. How should people not DM?
And the good and bad about having that be my show is that everybody asks me this, but at least I have an answer, right? So
your answers.
So I've got.
I'll challenge you to try and come up with something, some other not commonly said.
Okay.
Tip.
That I haven't talked about before.
When you haven't talked about, then let's see if we can come up with something, some way that you've screwed up. Could be recently. It could be a minor thing. What's a way that people should perhaps avoid DMing?
A small thing, not of little consequence, but like not a big game changer is I probably midway through this homebrew realized I needed to take better notes because I wasn't taking any notes. And any DM who's run games for long enough realizes at a certain point you just start making stuff up like mid game because they go in a direction you don't anticipate and you just got to fill in the blanks. And if you don't take notes about the things you have told them, the people they have talked to, the accents of those people, where they live, what their names are, the stuff that you're making up on the fly, you will forget.
Yeah.
And then they're going to say, hey, we want to go talk to so-and-so again. And you go, I don't know who that is, or I don't remember this conversation. Yeah. So it took me a couple of times of getting called out, and they're like, hey, what about this thing that you told us 3 sessions ago? And I'm like, I don't remember this. So yeah, after a couple times of being called out, I realized I need to start taking better notes. So after the session's over, I take time to say, who did they talk to? What are they going to go do next? What were the results of the things that happened, so that I have it at least somewhere as a record. Don't have to pretend like I remember. I remember, but can you tell me so that I know that you know?
Make a history check and tell me what you remember.
Yes. So that's one thing.
That's one trick, because if you ask them to make a check and then they roll badly, you can be like, "Oh, you don't remember. I'm afraid. I definitely remember, but I'm not going to tell you because you don't remember."
In the game, it happened an hour ago, but you've already
your guys got terrible memory.
Yeah, that's a crafty DM way to go about it, but I tried to be humble and just accepted it. Another thing I feel like I have done is probably in regards to homebrewing stuff. I probably have given my players too much homebrew stuff to use, magic items, that kind of thing, and therefore I have to compensate by making every encounter they deal with much more difficult.
Right.
Otherwise, they just steamroll through everything. Like I said, they're level 11 right now, I believe. So not crazy powerful, but strong enough that they can beat most things that I throw their way. They can beat adult or ancient dragons pretty easily if they wanted to. They can defeat my crazy homebrew enemies.
They're like, Derrick, why is every monster got an anti-magic field around it now? Why is this goblin just wearing a cloak of anti-magic?
And every encounter has a mage with counterspell? Like, what is this?
every single one.
No, I try not to do that because that's annoying. I'll throw it in every once in a while. But yeah, as a result of me just giving them so much stuff, because I'm like, oh, they should have this and they should have that. And,
you want to give them a magic item as a reward for everything. And every time they kill a single monster, it's like, oh, I want them to be able to loot something from its body, so I guess it's got a wand of something. And
so I try to enforce the attunement slots, so they have to make decisions.
Smart.
Yeah, I've definitely made up enough stuff to break my game many times over, but my players are just nice enough to me to not use them all the time. and ruin it and just like get to the end and defeat the bad guy and be done with it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
the way
that's been another learning thing.
I quickly learned that as well, and decided that most of the things that I give out are consumables from that point on, because I'm like, hey, here's a wand, but it doesn't recharge. It says on the last charge it's destroyed. Or here's a scroll, or here's a ring that can only be used 3 times, just so that they're like getting the fun of using these items and the power of using them, and I get the fun of like giving them out and allowing them to find them and things. But yeah, they don't have this permanent item they're going to use forevermore.
Sorry, I just saw that Quincy's in the chat.
So Quincy,
From
how's it
Quincy's
going?
Tavern, so I'm saying what's up.
If you guys, anyone in the chat, by the way, have got any questions for me or for Derrick, you can ask them. If you use them with the channel point redemption of the ask a question redemption, then they go into the requests list, and even if I haven't seen them, they're right here in my activity feed. So by the end of the show, I will have a section where I'm opening it up to your questions. So start them coming in now if you've got any questions for us, either of us, and I'll ask those at the end. And thank you for your patience, as I do tend to ignore the chat when I'm talking with a fascinating guest. But good to see you all in, and sup Quincy, it's good to have you here as well. So yeah, magic item power can be a big problem right from the beginning, especially I find even for well, not especially, but even for people who are veterans of older editions. It's not so much a problem these days because 5e's been out for so long that they've the people who are getting into it now aren't likely to have played the earlier editions, but yeah, the people who came in from earlier editions would, I find, give out like +3 longswords like they were candy and things, because they didn't realize the bounded accuracy of 5e was so much so that the +3 was like a legendary amount of bonus for a sword to have. And they used to like 3rd edition, 3.5 edition, where you could go up to like +40s and stuff. And so yeah, I early on played in a couple of one shots with DMs that weren't as used to the balance, and they were just giving out magic items left and right, and it very quickly overpowered the whole thing. It was like, oh, counterintuitively, it's like I guess it's like that. A kid really wants to eat all the chocolate and the candies and stuff, and if you were to just go for it, then they'd just be sick, and they'd be like, "Oh, I didn't realize that I didn't want this. I didn't realize that this is the bad thing for me." Same with magic items. They're like, "Oh, it's cool to get the magic items, but if you actually just give them out as much as the players actually want them, then it'll devalue all of them, and they won't have as much fun with each of them."
It can be tricky. You gotta find the sweet spot. Don't like be super stingy and not give them anything, because you want them to feel heroic and have fun. And it's more fun as a DM when you're up against, or not up against, but you're planning for characters with crazy superpowers. But and there's a balance to be had.
I love it when they pull out a magic item they've been holding on to for ages, and they go, "Oh, let's use this thing. This is perfect for this moment." And you're like, "I forgot you had that." That's awesome. I've had some of my players up against like they've taken out an entire goblin camp that was taken over from a dwarven stronghold or something. So it had like a whole dwarf king's horde essentially of magic items to steal from, and I only limited it by like, oh, the thing starts to collapse around you after you kill the final guy, so you've got a little bit of time to quickly grab all what you can and then get out. And so they got to choose like from a menu of magic items, essentially, like which ones are you going to grab. And then another of my campaigns, I had them kill some hags, and they just had an entire hag house worth of weird hag magic items. But I limited, like, I just gave them some super powerful, like, legendary stuff, and they were like level 5 at the time. But I limited it by making those items super gross and super hag related. So, like, they had a bag of tricks, which is one of those you pull out a little fuzzy grey ball, and it turns into an animal. But instead of a little fuzzball, it was a live beating animal heart that bled, and they like pulled them out, and they had to choose the animal's heart that they were going to use before they conjured that particular animal. And they had one that was like it was an ever smoking bottle, just one of those, and it makes a fog cloud. But it was an Afriti's liver, like a fire genie's liver or something. That was constantly smoking, and there was a Heward's handy haversack. Hewitt's Handy Haversack, the bag of holding with lots of different pouches in it, but it was made out of a human torso, and so I just made a bunch of like weird hag shit that's super gross, and then that was the limiting factor of which items they were going to use, because they were like, that's a really powerful item, but I'm not sure I want to use it. We're just gonna burn that. We're just gonna bury it. We're just gonna whatever. And it was fun because like there are where the different groups would draw the line on that. Like if you wrote that into a module or something and had a bunch of people play it, where all the different players would draw a line would be completely different areas, and you'd end up with some super powerful players because they'd be like, I'm fine with using that. I don't have a problem there.
Yeah, what? I'll carry around this skull and like open it up and shoot Eldritch Blast from its mouth or whatever. Yeah.
And then other groups would be like, we're just going to burn the whole house. Nope, I don't need any magic items from that. No, thank you. let's not touch anything.
Either,
yeah, exactly. That was one of the things they did. I give one of them a Rod of Rulership, which is a super powerful item that can anyone that you can see. So it's like you walk out onto a balcony and you've got like a whole town looking at you. You can take enchantment over them all. And I gave that to them, and that was a super powerful thing that they could definitely have abused. But in character, the guy went, nobody should have this, and he snapped it over his knee. And because it's a magic item, I set the DC to snap it at 25. But he's a fighter, and he has maxed out his strength and taken in a couple of levels in Bard and got expertise. And he took expertise in athletics, so now he's got like a plus 13 to his athletics, and he got 25 exactly, and managed to snap the thing over his knee. And was like, nope, nobody's having this. Enchanting an entire town to do your bidding. That's a messed up thing to have. Yeah, good stuff.
Very, very good of him.
Yeah, he is a very good character to a fault, unfortunately. So getting back on track with the podcast, let's talk about some of the guests you've had on. How many you've done 2 complete seasons, and you're about to start your 3rd. How many guests have you had on in your first 2 seasons?
I think I'm almost at 60. Total.
Almost at 60 guests. Holy moly, that's a lot of people you've talked to.
There's a lot of people,
and not running out yet.
Oh no,
there's just so many people in the industry.
I made the mistake of opening a Google form up, maybe a few months in, saying, if you want to be on my show, fill this out, and I got like 100 and whatever replies, and I had like maybe like 400 followers at that point. So look, there's no shortage of people who want to chat about it. It's insane, and there's no like that would have been like 6 seasons worth of people to talk to.
Yeah,
and it's like 3 years of my time, so probably not. Sorry, everybody. Anyway,
it's the same with Short Rest. I'm like, I'll always have more people to talk to than I have time to do it. I could move Short Rest to being once a week instead of once a fortnight, and I'd still just I'd not run out of people to talk to. I'd run out of time and energy, but I wouldn't run out of guests. So have you got like wish list guests, people that you haven't reached out to that you want to eventually, or people you'd love to have on?
A lot of them are on the list of people I reached out to and they never answered. So that's an unfortunate truth. And a lot of them are quite busy. I'm sure this tier of person has like an agent or whatever who filters their emails, and they're like, who's this? I don't know who this is. I'm just gonna delete this email.
This is plebeian.
So I'm sure I haven't even gotten to them, or in front of their eyes before. But yeah, like Brennan Lee Mulligan would be awesome.
Yeah.
Matt Mercer would be awesome. Abria Iyengar, she has her DMs aren't open. I can't find an email. She has no contact me on her website. So I have no idea how to reach out to her other than tweeting at her.
Agent or something.
Yeah, but I don't want to be the guy who's like at Abria every day. Hey, come on my show, because it's just not a good look. So, who else? Oh boy, Deborah Ann Wall. I'd love to chat with.
Yeah, she'd be great.
Probably should. I haven't reached out to her yet, but the rest I have that I've mentioned. So yeah, there's obviously like the white whales.
The big crowd
that I haven't gotten to chat to, but. I've talked to a lot of people that are like just the echelon below, or perhaps on the same level that you might put them there. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, lots of very interesting guests. I do listen to your podcast as like one of the many podcasts that I listen to, and it's always a fascinating talk because you do manage to find DMs that have something new to say. You always pick up something new from whoever you've got on. Variety is the spice of life, as they say, and unless you are consuming other people's work as a DM, you're not gonna be able to really find your style as easily. It's definitely hard to do so, especially if you're busy. But you do need to be consuming to a certain extent other people's stuff to be like, what are people making, and whether that's like actual plays or not, you need to be engaging with tips and tricks videos or like just podcasts where people are talking about how they work or that sort of thing, where you can like pick up on ways that you might improve. I think it's all part of your active practice. People say practice makes perfect, but practice makes permanent. Like, unless you're actively trying to improve with your practice, then just doing the same thing over and over again, like just playing the same sessions and not actually thinking about your sessions outside of them or ways that you can improve them and things, you're not going to improve.
I gotta say, when you and I were about to record, and I said, "So this is how my show goes, and usually the intro is like this," and you're like, "Yeah, I've already listened to all of it already." That blew me away because I mean, I had a few people on previous to that who were like good friends of mine who would have listened to everything, but yeah, it was just really refreshing and kind of flattering that you're like, "Oh yes, I've already listened to all of your show, so I know how the show goes." I don't know. It was a
do
cool
your
moment.
homework. I mean, when you reached out and said, "Do you want to be on it?" I was like, "Sure." So I started listening to some of your episodes, and intention of like if I'm going to be on it, then I need to have listened to a couple of them at least. And then I was like, "This is great. This is great format. You're a really good interviewer." Your chats, the guests that you'd chosen to have on, and the way that it was sort of edited into a nice, easy to understand and good audio, all that stuff. And so it just hooked me in for the rest of it, and it listen to them every time they come out now. So when's season 3? Let's talk about season 3. When do we expect to see it?
Season 3 comes out in just a couple of weeks. September 14th, Wednesday, will be the first episode of season 3. That will be coming out 7 a.m. Eastern Time, noon British Summer Time, and it's 8 p.m. 8 p.m. in Singapore. I don't know how far ahead of Singapore you are. You're 18 hours ahead of me?
More? It's currently 10 a.m. here, so we're in the future. We're in the future for everybody, whatever time it is here. Nobody in the audience cares, though. Nobody but me's in this time zone.
Okay, well, if it's 10 a.m. for you, so it'll be September 15th.
15th for us.
For our friends in New Zealand. Anyway.
So, do time conversions. You know how that works, everybody. You should know. You should know how to do your own time conversions by now. But September 14th, September 15th, and where do they find it? Just all of wherever they find podcasts?
Yes, I'm on Spotify, I'm on Apple Podcasts, I'm on a bunch of other ones that I've pushed the show to. You can find more information about the show. Robert's got the link tree up here on the overlay, linktree.com/HN, the number 2 DM. That's also my Twitter handle where I'm most active. But yeah, the show's up on all of those places. I've released a handful. I've released a bonus episode between the end of last season and now, which is a compilation of all of the Quickfire Chaos segments, which is a mid-episode kind of mini-game. I did role-playing with half my guests. I did some other stuff with the other half, like build a fantasy football team, or tell me how you would design a game based on these random things that we decide on, or whatever it might be, kind of, what those guests were good at. So those, the role-play episode is out now. The other portion guests, I'm going to split it into 2 episodes, and that should be coming out sometime this weekend-ish, and then next week in preparation for season 3. So yeah, that's what's coming out soon.
Cool. How was it difficult to get onto all of those players, like getting onto Spotify and things? Getting onto Apple Podcasts? Like, what was the process you started when you actually started the podcast to get it out there for people to actually hear it?
Yeah, I would recommend to anybody if you want to start a podcast, Anchor.fm is super easy. It's free. It's really easy to just upload the audio. Immediately, they give you the option to put an Anchor ad in your episode, and you get 1.5 US cents per person who listens. So it's like an easy way to just get a little bit of money to start
Mm.
off with. And then, yeah, the whatever podcast uh, platform you're using, like Anchor, usually has the option to just push to all of these other places. So it's a couple of clicks to say, yeah, approve my show on Spotify, yeah, submit my show to Apple, and then a bunch of other places as well, like Overcast or Stitcher or
Yeah.
Pocket Casts, or there's like 100 of them.
There's a
But yeah,
million of them.
most of your podcast platforms will push to those easily automatically without you having to do a ton of work on your side. So that's
And
where I started. I'm
and
on
does
Captivate.
Apple Podcast have to? I think they did when we were doing it. Do they have to like approve your show before they'll put it on it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get a little email that says your show's been approved or something
Right.
like that. It's like a day or two, I think, that it takes. So make sure that your show's approved before you push out your first episode. But it's really easy, and so long as you are who you say you are, and your art doesn't have like nudity on it or
Right.
whatever,
Yeah.
like it's not too hard to get approved, I
Yeah.
think. So
Cool. So what's something you've learned how not to podcast? What's something you've learned that people can learn from your tips and tricks of podcasting?
yeah, when I started, I was recording my audio on this headset. They're great headphones, but the microphone is not good.
Right. Yeah.
So the first 5 or 10 episodes, the audio leaves a lot to be desired. But I since bought myself a snowball, and then I've upgraded to this Yeti, Blue Yeti. I found these on Facebook Marketplace, so if you're in a place that has that, usually people are posting them for like half price because they realize that streaming isn't for them or whatever.
Right.
So you can find cheap mics. Another place to go is pawn shops. I have a buddy who works at a pawn
Right.
shop, and
Right.
he says you can pick up just about everything you need there for pretty cheap.
That's pretty
But yeah,
sweet.
sound quality is important, and people will not listen to your show if the sound quality is not up to what they expect. And so I actually have re-recorded a little intro and put it at the beginning of my first episode, saying,
Smart.
"Hey, by the way,
This is not the
it
greatest
gets
audio.
better. Like if
Please
you want, you can
start with
them."
episode 5 or something. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
it's
Just a
always the case, isn't
disclaimer.
it? It's always the
So
case.
yeah, if you
We when we were doing our podcast, we decided about halfway through the year we were like, let's just get rid of the first 20 because it's off-putting if people want to go back and listen. They're not gonna slog through 20 hoping it gets better. So we were like, and we just scrapped it eventually, and just so that people didn't have the option. and then after that, we did get a couple of comments being like, I can't seem to find anything before episode 30. It's like, yep, because we got rid of it.
I've heard of people taking those and putting them like behind Patreon or something like,
Yeah,
hey,
paywalls and
pay
stuff.
me $2 and you can have access to it. So I
we
might do
we,
that
we
eventually
considered
when I
that, and then
take
we
the
were
first
like,
10.
we were considering that, and we were like, it felt weird to be like, here, pay behind a paywall is worse content. Like if you're
Yeah.
really, and obviously that's a weird way to look, because like the actual way to look at it is if somebody's super into your thing that they are going to listen despite the bad audio, then they'll pay extra to listen to everything that you've got and consume everything that you've done. But for us, with our very very small audience, we were just like, it didn't feel right to be like, pay us extra money to listen to this worse stuff.
Yeah, it's always tricky. But I think yeah, I haven't done it yet, right? Just heard of people doing it.
Yeah.
So I may eventually do that. I may not. But yeah, that's the thing I learned first was video quality. It's got to be good. Uh, Other than that, I've just been winging it, and it's been going okay. I'm not the most organized person, but I set up a Google Calendar that I have like the specific times where I'm going to chat with people, set up, and I can always go check it. That way, I'm not ever double booking people. I'm not ever forgetting stuff. I have a Trello board to kind of keep track of tasks if I need to. But once I kind of got into the workflow of like record, edit, make all of the promo videos and the poster, set it to publish, get all the links and stuff, publish it. It wasn't too hard to keep that up, and
Mm.
it's very repetitive, for better or for worse. So once you kind of get into that groove, usually it's not too hard to keep up and keep it good quality, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. So yeah.
What's your what have you learned about audio quality in general? Like, what pushed you to get the mic you've got now and things like that? What do you look for in audio equipment?
Uh, so I am not the biggest audiophile out
Mm.
there. I haven't done a ton of extensive research into like specific file formats and into specific equipment. My mic I
I mean, the
knew
good thing,
was better than the one I had.
yeah, the good thing today is just like there's so many good quality mics that eventually you're just like they're all gonna do a good job, as long as you've
Yeah.
got one of the good ones and you're not working off of a headphone mic or something. Yeah,
Yes. I read a few reviews. Everyone said they liked it, so I thought that's good enough.
yeah,
I bought a boom from Amazon for like $10. So I haven't broken the bank by any means
yeah.
to kind of get set up. All of the programs I use are free. I use Zencaster to record, and it's free still. Um, you can record on Discord if you want. Discord can be finicky, so
Yeah.
you can ask your guest to record locally. Usually people have something like that to do. I use a Mac, and so GarageBand is just built in, and it's easy to record on there, and that's what I used to edit to until I stopped having to do my own editing. So, yeah, I think there's a ton of free resources out there. You don't have to spend a ton of money to make a pretty good sounding podcast.
Yeah, yeah. That's good advice, isn't it? That it's capable. It's able to. You are able to make something that sounds good these days without being like an audio engineer, because that was something that was really daunting to me in the early days of streaming. I was like, I don't so many different mics, so many different webcams, so many different this and that. What do I use? What do I use? And eventually, I was just like, just choose one that's got good reviews and hope for the best. And I've had this Rode mic for the whole time, and it's been fine ever since ever since I got away from the bloody headset microphone. Um,
Even those though are getting better. There's some people I've chatted with who have the headset mics, like actual proper gaming ones, and they sound great. So I think technology just keeps getting better. So
yeah, it's getting to the point where nobody needs to worry about it, because you're gonna just like the people who are super audiophiles have put in the work to create newer and better microphones that can accommodate for being user friendly for the people who aren't. And so she's like, oh, it's got a setting where I press a button and it says on. Like, sweet, it's on. So it's already automatically doing all of the magic. So tell us about the future of the podcast. What do you envision for How Not to DM, aside from newer and more guests?
it's a good question. I've thought about this a lot because I ask people often when they're on my show if they're content creators, like, what's the future of your
Yeah.
content specifically? Uh, so I don't really have a good answer. I'd love to keep doing it. I'm enjoying doing it,
Mm-hmm.
and I definitely see myself doing at least a couple more seasons. I don't know why I probably would stop if I had kind of like felt like I talked to everybody that I wanted to talk to, or I felt like the show had kind of run its course.
Or people
But I,
or people were just kind of repeating the same advice. Would that be an issue? Do you reckon?
I mean, it does happen. Spoiler alert for half of my episodes. People say one of the mistakes they make is railroading. It happens, and
It's.
you'll hear a
I think
dozen
it's
people
important
say
though.
it.
I
But
think it is important because you're hearing other people talking about the same mistake in different ways. You're hearing different examples of it, and not only that, but you're hearing other people's opinions of why it's a mistake, which is important. And the
and
more you
examples of
hear
it
that it
too.
is a mistake, the more you're likely to get that reinforced for yourself as a new DM to be like, a lot of people are saying this is a mistake. Maybe I should
True.
take it on board.
So yeah, I don't want to be the guy who's still making the show that jumped the shark 3 seasons ago, but I definitely see a couple more seasons at least, and I don't really feel like stopping anytime soon. So
Mm.
unless something drastic changes, I'll keep doing that. My friend and I. One of my friends who's in my game group now, his name's Matthew. He and I have started like creating content that we want to publish, like games or supplements, that kind of thing. So I'm in the middle of working on a Kickstarter project with him. And I think that is going to become a bigger part of what I'm doing moving forward, so long as this goes well. But yeah, we've been writing a one-shot adventure with some additional rules for 5e, but you can use it for most other systems where you've got some kind of dice rolling for success mechanic. And yeah, so that's something fun and interesting that I'm working on now. Haven't really broadcasted it a ton of different places, but I think that that will kind of give me some other fun stuff to work on in between the show and keep me interested. So yeah, that's something else I've got cooking.
When do you anticipate the Kickstarter being around?
That's a good question. So the cover art is finished. The writing's probably 70% finished. Needs to be edited. Needs some layout work, and then I need to get some maps commissioned and made. But once all that is done, we'll be ready. I've had a few different people give me different advice. Some people say have everything done before the Kickstarter. Some people
Mm-hmm.
say, use it to leverage and make money to buy more stuff.
Mm.
So I'm kind of in between that. But definitely within the next couple months, we want to at least kind of have it announced and be collecting people's emails, who want to subscribe to updates and
Yeah.
ready for kickoff. So as soon as I have something official, I'll let you know, and I can hop into your Discord and let everybody know there too, or whatever.
Excellent.
But yeah, be looking for updates.
Cool. Looks sounds exciting. Sounds like you got a lot of stuff going on. How
Always.
often do you actually get to play D&D? Because that's something I find is that the more and more you make it into a job, the more you take on different things, the less you actually have time to actually play the damn game. Do you?
It is very true. And funny, like I've had a bunch of people invite me, hey, do you want to be on my podcast or do you want to be on the
Mm,
stream? And if it's like more than just a one-time
yeah,
thing, I'm like, I probably can't do it
I can't
because
do that.
scheduling is just so
Yeah.
tough. So it's funny that you mentioned that. But I probably played half of the weekends this summer. My brother started a Waterdeep Dragon Heist, and I was a player in that. We're most of the way through it. But summer I usually take off because one of my brothers goes home or goes to an internship for school. Currently, he's at university right now, so he's back in town. I don't think we're playing this weekend, but we should join or start up my regular campaign again, and we'll play probably until spring again when he leaves. So probably play 3 out of 4 weeks during the school year. You know, Obviously holidays and stuff get in the way, and then you've got too many people out of town here and there occasionally. But we are pretty consistent, I think. Yeah, that's how often I get to run games
Okay,
usually.
that's
So
good.
3 to 4 times a month.
That's good. So you still get the chance to actually put the things that you're learning from other people into practice.
Yes,
Is that
yes, that's the whole point, right?
what's the
So
what's the biggest piece of advice that you have picked up from a guest on your podcast that you have gone personally like, oh, that's actually a really good point. I shouldn't be doing that in my games, or I should be trying some of this.
Mike Shea, he's known as Sly Flourish. He wrote the book Lazy Dungeon Master and Return of the Lazy Dungeon
Hmm.
Master. Number one, you should go read that book, everybody. You can buy it for pretty cheap on Amazon, or you can buy the PDF. And I was doing a few of the things that he suggests in there, but it really changed the way I prep for my games, made it way easier, way more streamlined, and I like hit all of the bullet points I need to. So highly recommend that. I also chatted with him season two, so you can go listen to that episode if you want. But Mike Shea mentioned one of the mistakes he made early on was he kind of found himself having a me versus the players mentality, right?
Hmm.
I am there to oppose them and to make things difficult for them,
Hmm.
and like I'm gonna target players specifically and that kind of thing. And I definitely have fallen prey to that more than one time. Um, Being frustrated by players thinking up ways to foil my plans or
Hmm.
whatever,
Hmm.
and like kind of taking it out on them, not like aggressively like
Hmm.
yelling and throwing stuff, but like in game making stuff difficult for them. But I have since adopted, this what he suggests, which is like you're like there to have fun and like let the players be successful and then watch them be successful and enjoy it and like facilitate
Yeah.
them um, enjoying themselves. And in like deep down, that's what I really wanted to do as a DM from the start. But I think that kind of creeped in every once in a while, just because sometimes I get competitive,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I like to. I'm one of those people who likes to be right, likes to
Yeah.
win. So
Just there's a fantastic analogy that goes to this exactly that I just loved it. I only heard about it the other day. It was Brennan Lee Mulligan talking with Bria Rangan and Matt Mercer, and he was saying that like as the character wants to take the most direct, most efficient route to whatever their goal is. If you are given the ring and you have to put it in Mordor, you would want to go via the eagles and just drop it and fly overhead and drop it in. That's that. But as the player, that's the least exciting thing to do. And I love the analogy that he uses. He says, "So you're like water. You're always going to flow downhill in the path of least resistance. Water always takes the path of least resistance. And as a dungeon master, your job is to channel in front of them so that they're always at any one point taking the path of least resistance, but by the end of the path they look back and they've gone on this winding journey rather than a straight down the hill. And so you're not so it's difficult to sort of get that subtlety between your dungeon master job is to be a challenge to the players, but you're not against the players, because being against them would be like damming that water, to be like stopping them and to be like, nah, you can't flow downhill. I'm going to be in the way just for no reason, rather than channeling them this way and being like, look, it wouldn't be interesting if I allowed you to flow downhill. If I gave you everything you wanted, you just have it, then that's not an interesting story. So I have to be there to put challenges in the way of you. I have to think about ways that combat and challenge and put you in danger and things like that. I have to channel this river for you, so that by the time we get to the end, we have together told this compelling story.
That is amazing. That was Brennan who said that?
Brennan Lee Mulligan, yeah, on a
was it on his show?
It was on Critical Role. It was when he took over as a dungeon master recently for a 4-shot or whatever it was, and then afterwards they were doing like a talking head debrief chat, and it was part of that he mentioned it, and I was like, that's just a wonderful analogy, which didn't surprise me because he's an incredible mind.
He's so smart.
He's so smart, man.
Yeah.
So much stuff.
That sums it up perfectly. Like, I would have never thought of that analogy, but that is a great way to describe the balance between being a complete obstacle like a dam, but not being a sluice or whatever, a pipe that just shoots them straight to where they need to go. Wow.
It's good stuff.
And what a guy.
I'm going to open it up to the chat now, but while you are getting your last questions in, everybody, get your questions in. Don't forget to use the redemption of the D&D question. It's only 50 channel points, so you should be able to afford that. It gets it into my activity feed so that I can not miss them. But while you're getting your questions in, I also want to get some other suggestions from the chat, because we're going to play a little game called Slow Ice Law, which is definitely not quick fire chaos, and we're gonna get some slow ice law, and so I need suggestions for a character. We're gonna put together a character. We're gonna put together a little improvised scene. I'm gonna give Derrick a quest to go on, and so I need a voice. This is not necessarily an accent. This is like, is this person confident? Are they stuttery? Do they speak with eloquent words? So I need a voice. I need the type of quest it's going to be. Is it going to be a fetch quest, an assassination, an escort mission? Is it going to be a heist? Is it going to be a breaking and entering job? What sort of quest am I sending them on? What else do you ask on your quickfire chaos?
Mythical! Wow.
What's mythical?
Confident Scouse mermaid.
Confident Scouse mermaid.
Yeah, mate.
Yeah, mate. So you're a mermaid and you're
something for me?
confident. Alright, so you're confident. I'm a Scouse mermaid. Shrek. I'll be Shrek. Shrek is the fancy unicorn one, so I'll be Shrek, the quest giver, and I'm given a quest to a confident Scouse mermaid. The quest is to steal Rob's mow. I don't even have a mow at the moment. And you speak with an irregular volume. So your Scouse mermaid going on a quest to steal a mustache from Shrek is sending you on a quest to steal a mustache. All right.
So I am Shrek the mermaid.
No, I'm Shrek, the quest giver. I'm sending the mermaid, a Scouse mermaid, who is confident but speaks with irregular volume, which is going to be great for my editing, I'm sure. It's going to peak.
Let's do
this. Just back and forth from the microphone. I'll just pick up the mic and just move it in front of your face. All right.
I'm trying to get your mustache. That's.
And you're trying to get a mustache, yes. Donkey, get out of my swamp. Got to put on just Scottish. Is there anything more than just Scottish for Shrek? What do I have to do for Shrek? Donkey, it's my swamp. I'm gonna grind your bones to make my bread. Right.
It's good.
Angry Scottish. So we begin. There's a poster on the wall for Quest Wanted. Speak with Shrek in the swamp outside of town, and you're desperate for money, I suppose. So you take that, you head in through the swamp, sludging through the mud, and you approach
I want to envision that I have like a person who pushes me around. I'm in a barrel in a wheelbarrow. I'm sitting there in the water, my bottom half,
and you've just got
wheeling me out.
You've just got like an NPC that's always just wheeling you around in a barrel, and the wheel gets stuck in the mud. Oh, I'm sorry. It seems like we're stuck. Sorry, let me just pull and push.
Oh, Jeffrey, why are you always getting the wheelbarrow stuck?
There's not much I can't. I'm trying. I'm trying. I'm sorry.
Go this way.
Pushes you up onto a rock, onto some slightly drier ground. There's a wooden outhouse comes into vision, and then poof, the door of the outhouse opens up, and this ogre steps out. Oh, I wouldn't go in there if I were you for a moment. Oh, hello. What are you doing in my swamp?
Right, sir. Oh, I'm just here in your swamp because I found this piece of paper here.
Not a mermaid. Does that mean that Farquaad's sending mythical creatures to my swamp again?
I'm not sure what you're referring to, mate, but listen, I was in town and I found this little piece of paper on this job board posting, and I'm wondering, is there some way that I could perform this task for you, mate?
Ah, that's right. I forgot that I put those up. Aye, I do need that, actually. Come on over here. And he walks over and he grabs your barrel and just lifts you up and takes you over the swamp. Slosh, slosh, slosh.
What's it like to be manhandled?
Ogre handled, I'll have you know. Right. So I'm going to fancy dress party later on, and people don't tend to like me in town because of the whole ogre appearance. So I figured if I can grab a big sort of fake mustache, then I'll be able to blend in. People will never know that. They'll just think that it's just part of the costume. So tell you what I'll do. I'll give you first pick of anything you can see around you in this swamp. You get to pick that as your reward if you manage to grab me a mustache. The most glorious mustache in town is from this very handsome fella. He's called Robert, and he's a streamer in town. And he's got this glorious mustache and beard. I only need the mustache. So if you can whip that off and bring it to me, you can have your choice of anything you can see in my swamp.
So he was a streamer?
Aye, a streamer. I'm not sure what that means.
I'm not sure I can handle a stream. Because, listen, I live in salt water. I don't think I can handle fresh water. What if
your friend there, he just goes upstream and just sprinkles salt in the stream?
Yeah, that's a great idea, Jeffrey. Jeffrey!
I'm not sure we're gonna have enough salt for that. That sounds like a you problem. Yeah. Okay. I can probably find a few tons of salt to put into the stream.
You're embarrassing me in front of the ogre.
I'm sorry.
Right. Okay, so listen, you're looking for the best mustache in town. You said this fella Robert has it, yeah?
Yeah, apparently. Only every so often he'll shave it off and become very baby-faced.
Aye, looks like a baby. Do ogres have any body hair?
Oh, aye, we have body hair. Places you don't want to hear.
Just not on the face.
Just not on the face.
Right. Well, I think Jeffrey and I can handle this for you.
Excellent.
We'll have to go in town and pick up some salts, but after we're done picking up the salts, I'll go find this robber fella for you.
This the party's
Do you
tomorrow
want me to
night.
shave it off him?
The party's tomorrow night.
Oh,
However you
nice.
get it off him's none of my concern. You rip it off his face, shave it off his face. I don't know. Encourage it to leave his face. Maybe make a mutiny of his facial hair. I don't know. Whatever. That's on you.
Try to buy it off him for a few quid. We'll see.
You could just say
Anyway,
and buy it.
cheers. Well, I think we'll go find your friend Robert, and I'll get Jeffrey to help me out with the salts and all that. But I'll go find the stream he lives in and get this sorted for you.
Right, you are then. He lifts up your barrel and just hifts you towards Jeffrey. No, 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 no! He squashes beneath it, and then you just slosh out into the mud, and then you're having to
Start
swim your
flapping
way,
around a
start
little
flapping
bit.
around. And right, I'll be in here when you need me. And then Shrek goes into his house. Very good.
Apologies to all of Liverpool.
That was actually a
Scouse.
very good accent. That was a very good accent. I was not expecting a very such a good Scouse accent from an American, if I'm honest.
I've been
Where do
there,
you-
so
Oh, you've been there.
I lived in St. Helens for 3 months, just
There you go,
up
then.
the road from Liverpool. So I met a few Scousers, luckily.
Excellent. Makes a lot of sense. It was very impressive. Thank you very much to the chat for those suggestions. Now let's crack into the questions we've been getting from the audience. Let's see. 1 hour ago from I Am Bodhi, we got favorite monster, and does not specify D&D monster, so it could be a mythical one that does not yet have a D&D stat if needed.
I really love the... Oh, hang on, what's it called? A shambling mound.
Oh yeah, they're great, eh? Super
I
useful.
love them because you can put them anywhere there's
Yes.
greenery, and they can easily handle bigger parties because they've got a few different actions they can do, and if you can grapple someone and consume them and start bashing them around inside, they deal a ton of damage and stuff. They're also really fun to homebrew and add things to, and I don't know. So yeah, I love shambling mounds.
they're
I just love the
really-
imagery of this giant plant monster.
They're really versatile because I think they're challenge rating 5, but you can easily drop them down to challenge rating 2 or something by just making them smaller, making their hit points do less, whatever. And you don't have to have like, it doesn't have implications to homebrew them as a new thing. Like if you homebrewed an ogre down to a challenge rating half, then by making them small, then you're like, oh, now small ogres live in my world. And if you improved an ogre up to a challenge rating 5 by giving them a bunch of other stuff, you're like, now those exist in the world. Shambling mounds, they're literally just like a mound of shambling vegetation, so they can be as small or as big as you need them to be. You can create them a challenge rating 10 by giving them just like just making them gargantuan, or having them like a network like a fungal forest is, where there's a bunch of different shambling mounds but they're all connected to the same thing. You could give it
more vines or something like
yeah,
that.
make it
there's
make
lots
it
of
like
different
super
ways.
swampy and like got this dampness that gives it immunity to fire damage or whatever. You can easily muck around with them. I used Shambling Mound to great effect once against a party of complete noobs to D&D, so they had never encountered one before. And so they were wandering down the path, and it was basically just a random encounter. But I said that one of them with their high perception noticed that the bush was slightly moving, which they interpreted as there's a goblin hiding in the bush. And they said, and I'm pretty much quoting here, they said, I walk over to the bush and stick my head in it. And I was like, you have just given me the best beginning to this encounter, because the bush just completely encloses around your head and you start to suffocate. And they were like, oh god, we're fighting we're fighting a hedge. And that actually gave them their party name, because once they back and forth through fighting this hedge, eventually they overcame it, but called themselves the Hedge Lords from that point on.
Edgelords. That's incredible.
Yeah, Shambling Man, great monster. My favourite is probably the Displacer Beast, just because it's gorgeous. I've always been a real big fan of the big cats in real life. Just the majesty and power that they show when they're prowling and stalking and hunting. And I think the Panther of the Displaced Beast, absolutely beautiful. Redial asked, what is the most common mistake that new DMs make, and how can they avoid it? So what's the one that comes up most often on your shows?
I want to say it's railroading adjacent. It is that you have this specific story in mind as a new DM. You get super excited. You're like, ooh, I have this idea for this story. You write it all down. You have it all planned out. and then your players don't want to do the things that you're laying out for
Right.
them. They're not interested in the encounters you're giving them. They're not interested in the plot hooks or whatever. And it really just comes down to communication, I think. I text my players weekly when we're playing, like after we're done, just check in, see how they're doing, see what kind of fun stuff they want to do next. Just so that like everyone's always on the same page as far as where we're headed and what's fun and what's interesting. And I think new DMs get the blinders on and they think,
Yeah.
oh, okay, this is what we're doing. This is going to be fun. And why don't the players want to do this fun thing I've designed for
It's
them?
gonna be fun. You will sit down
Sit
and have my
and
fun.
It's I don't know if you've seen Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but Captain Holt says like, I requested that everyone have fun.
Yes,
Why aren't
I
they having
specifically
fun?
requested
Anyway.
it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the line. So it's exactly that. And as a new DM, you get excited and you do that.
So not realizing
great thing to learn is
not realizing in the session 0 that part of that is also talking about what genre of are you interested in political drama, because I've got a great story for like this political intrigue thing that's happening with the farmer's wife sexually had the bastard child of the king and stuff, and then you start playing that out and you're like, oh, it's super cool, and then nobody's interested in political drama. They just want a hack and slash. Yeah, important to go over in a session 0. Redal asked a question for both of us. Do you have a funny worst DM mistake ever story? I mean, for that sort of thing, Redal, you want to listen to How Not to DM. There's a lot of them. Everybody, that's kind of the whole premise, is that every guest has one of their own worst DM mistake ever
quick one.
moment.
Try to make it quick. So my party was chasing after this armada of 12 ships that had stolen a bunch of these magic crystals and were going across the ocean. This bleeds into what we talked earlier about like giving them way too many magical items and stuff. But anyway, my partner plays a wizard and she had control water, and she like essentially just created a large enough whirlpool to trap all 11 of the 12 ships in a giant whirlpool. And then my rogue used these boots that can walk on water and like lit all the ships on fire without being caught, and just like sunk 11 of my 12 ships to the bottom of the ocean. Incredible. Like, it was so fun and they loved it in game, but like, you know, it ruined a lot of my future plans. Be careful with the magical items you give them, but also when they're foiling your plans, go with it, have fun, and just rewrite stuff later.
Read your players minute to minute, moment to moment, read them and realize whether or not they are having fun with the fact that they are steamrolling your encounter. Because if they are, you do not need to nerf it. You do not need to buff it. You can allow them to sometimes just steamroll an encounter you had planned to be like an epic fight and be like feel like badasses, because that is part of the story of D&D, is that you're playing heroes, you're playing adventurers who are going out and being heroic, and sometimes you want to feel like that. You want to feel like you are super powerful, and that is sometimes one-shotting the giant constrictor snake that you had that you never got around because you rolled the last on the initiative, so you're like, haha, this giant constrictor snake jumps out at you, and then they fucking annihilate it before it gets to make a thing, and then it becomes a running joke from then on of like how that time that they all absolutely wasted a snake within 6 seconds. I had a similar thing in my last table session with one of my home games with Control Water, with an aboleth. I had an aboleth all planned to fight them. I was super excited for it, and then one of them, Control Water, trapped it into a vortex, and it's just spinning around and around and around and can't do shit. and then she was like, all right, I'm gonna drop Control Water for she had Control Water, and then somebody cast Call Lightning, and so they're just blasting into the briny water, and so of course I'm like, he's going to have vulnerability to lightning whenever he's in the briny water, because that makes sense. And so they just, lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt, he's dead. Like, oh, this challenge written 10 aboleth. Cool.
Aboleths are probably my second favorite monster. So
they're pretty crazy, eh?
As far as favorites go, they're so cool.
I've got intentions of using them as like a proper plot arc thing in another campaign that I'm running. So their campaign was kind of like a little tester for that. I wanted to see how well they do just in a straight fight. They were a random encounter sort of thing without using all of the lore and the So it was a random encounter, sort of just fighting them without any of the mind controlling lore behind it and all of the lead up to it, just to see how they do. Apparently not well. apparently you really got to set up the aboleth before you use them in the final fight.
Need some minions, yeah.
Yeah, minions are important.
Thralls.
All right, Redial again asks, is there a kind of DM mistake that you still have trouble with, and do you have any advice regarding it? Yeah, just a mistake that you know is a mistake, but you still make it.
Yeah.
The notes thing is a big thing for me. Like I don't give myself time to take notes, and so thankfully a few of my things are recorded now. The Twitch Tales the interactive game that I run on a weekend on my Twitch. I can go back and look at episodes, or I can look in the Discord where people are talking about that, and I can look at the recaps that people have made to remind myself of things. People are taking notes for me. In one of my home games, somebody is very good at taking notes, so I just check their notes. But yeah, checking my own in the few campaigns that I do run where it's not recorded and I'm the only one taking notes. I'll often go, shit, shit. What was the name of that place that they went? And then I'll like surreptitiously try and get to see if any of them know, because if none of them remember,
it's like if you forgot someone's name and you introduce your friend.
Oh, hey, have
like,
you met this guy?
And you wait for them to say the name, and you're like, oh yeah, that's good.
I was talking with my personal trainer the other day about this exact thing, because right next door to the gym that I go to is somebody, and as this guy who works next door walked past, my personal trainer goes, it's so awkward. I don't know his name, and we've worked together like next door to each other for ages now. And every time he walks past, he'll lean in and be like, "Hey man, how you going?" And he'll say the personal trainer's name, and he goes, "I don't know how." And so for the rest of the personal training session, me and my personal trainer were just brainstorming more and more zany ideas of like how we can learn this guy's name. I was like, you should order a pizza and get it delivered to his work, and then they'll call out a pizza for so and so, and then he'll say, "No, my name's not so and so, it's so and so." And you can be listening at the door, and we were coming up with all these crazy, wacky, zany ideas for how he can learn this next door neighbour's name. And then yesterday I went in for my personal training, and he goes, "I learnt his name yesterday. I finally just got the balls to just ask him and say, 'Sorry, man, I forgot your name. You'll never guess what it was.'" And I went through a few guesses, and he's like, "No." And I was like, "Is it Robert?" And he goes, "Yep, it's Robert. After all the time that you and I were talking about how to get his fucking name, and it's your name." Yeah,
Too
crazy
good.
stuff. I love that.
For me, a mistake that I still make, we talked about party size and like the optimum party size. Like I said, I have 5 players right now, and I definitely have one player who's more involved in the role play, and a couple of other players who are more content to sit and listen and like watch what unfolds. And so it's a constant struggle for me of making sure that I think of ways to include everybody in things and like give them all stuff to interact with that they enjoy, to make sure that everybody is having fun. And you can't necessarily do that in every session, and I think everybody realizes this. Like once you've played long enough, there's going to be some sessions where you don't get to do as much, and there's going to be sessions where you might be in the spotlight more. But it's always, to me, I'm always thinking about better ways, or ways that I can better balance that. So that's something I'm constantly working on, and a mistake that I definitely still make.
Yeah, important to do that. Try and find that balance, and it is just this. It's just an experience thing, isn't it? Like to get better and better at that through practice. Siblanda asks, "What map book do I use in my campaign with Viva La Dirty?" I use a map book called The Giant Book of Battle Maps. It's by Loki Battle Maps. I think it's reversing it, but you can tell there. It's very, very useful. I highly recommend them. What I love about them is that they've got just different maps on each one, forests and all the different terrains. And unlike a lot of the other maps that you'll find, map books and stuff, is they're not too prescriptive about what you've got on there. Like often I'll find a map that's like, "Oh, this is a really cool dungeon map," but it's got drawn on it the teleportation circle and some broken carts and a dead body over here and things. And I'm like, well, now I can only use it for that thing. I can only use it for that same dungeon over and over again. And every time I reuse this map, I have to explain away why there's a teleportation circle over here and stuff. Whereas this is just like,
say it's not there.
Yeah, this is just like the world, so it's much more reusable. And there's like colosseums and stuff. Yeah, fantastic. And they do a bunch of different ranges of them as well. This is the Giant Book of Battle Maps Volume 2. And they've got smaller ones. They've got the big book. The big book, I think, is half the size. And then they've got a little book as well that's like tiny little ones that are really, really easy for just whipping out. The little ones are actually fantastic. I don't think I've got them yet. But they've got like ones this size that are just like the interior of taverns and things. So you can just be like, flip, flip, flip. There's a tavern for you. In case they start like a tavern brawl and stuff. It's good stuff. The one thing I would want differently though, personally, is that I don't tend to like to use grids. So like I prefer using just like measuring sticks and measuring it out a little bit more loosey goosey.
Warhammer style.
Yeah, because I just find that there's already enough of a disconnect between it's an imagination, you can do anything game where everything is reality and roleplay, blah blah blah, and then there's a disconnect of like roll initiative, suddenly we're into a war game. If I can reduce that sort of disconnect at least a little bit by removing the fact that everybody has to stand in square blocks now, and just be like, no, you can be next to each other, or you can squeeze next to each other into this space. As long as your mini can fit there, you can go there. And then you can measure it out by like 5 feet. Is that you don't need to measure, you don't need to have the things of like, do you measure diagonals as 5 feet, or do you measure them as like Euclidean geometry? And instead you can just look at a 5 foot increment of your measuring stick and be like, yeah, that's within 5 feet, you're fine. A little bit more realism, I suppose, for want of a better word. So I'd love it if they did the same map books, just without the grids. Lovecraftian Beer asks, do you have any tips for someone running a one-shot for new players? I'm running a game for the in-laws soon and want them to have a good first impression.
Yeah, it's a good question. First of all, congrats on getting the in-laws in on a game of D&D. That's impressive. Mine would never do that.
My partner
second
would
of
never
all,
do it.
I would try to keep it as simple as possible for character creation. I would maybe ask them like a couple of questions about fantasy or movie tropes or characters they like and they would want to be similar to, and then just build their characters for them.
Yeah.
I would try to keep it low level so that everyone only has like one action on their turn and don't have a bunch of extra stuff they can do that you have to worry about. Try to give them lists of spells also, and like give the spells that they're going to need to use instead of like making them figure out how to prepare them and stuff. Just try to make it as easy as possible for them to see what they can do.
Remove the minutiae of the game. Yeah.
Yes, 100%. And then think of some stuff or with your questions you're asking them, like figure out what sounds fun to do. Like, do they want to explore a pirate ship, or do they want to storm a castle, or some like small one-shot sort of style adventure? Figure out what sounds interesting to them and give them that exactly so that they're engaged in it. Try to limit the number of people. I ran a one-shot for my whole family for Christmas, and there were 9 people, and that was far too many people. I will never make that mistake again. They were mostly new, so don't do that. Make sure that there's a few people. Ooh, another thing that I did with my players when I first started is I gave them a strip of paper, and I traced the outline of each of the individual sizes of dice so that they knew what dice to use. Yeah, and I labeled it like, this one is the D6, this one is the, so that they know which one to pick up and roll. Otherwise... And like, I still have players who like it. They just like to have it organized in front of them like that. So yeah, do that so they know which dice to use. If you have a bunch of dice, you could try to use dice that are the same color. Like the D20 is blue and the D6 is red and the D10 useful. Is green. If you have them.
There's a dice set that I really love that I've got that specifically has the D20 being larger than the others, and like then you could, because the D20 is the one that you're going to roll. And the big question you're going to get asked often is like, when you say, roll me a whatever check, they'll be like, which one's that one? Which one do I roll? And you're going to get that over and over and over again, even if you keep telling them it's the D20, it's the big one, the one that's the roundest, the one that's got the most numbers on it. The only one that has a number more than 12 on it.
doesn't matter how often you point it out, you're going to have to keep doing so. And so having that D20 be a different color to the rest of the set, even if you just have like, if you've got, say, 4 players and you've got 4 sets of dice for them that are all like colored, take the D20 from this person and move them all around clockwise so that everybody's got a different colored D20 would be useful. Little things like that.
Not a bad idea. Lastly, I would say include each of the 3 pillars in the game. Include a little bit of exploration, a little bit of roleplay, and a little bit of combat. Make sure that they get to do all 3 and kind of see how it feels.
Yeah.
And I think that's my advice.
It's excellent advice. As above, I will just say yes. Very good advice. Siblanda asks, how do you come up with the names of towns in your campaigns? For me, I use places near me and change the name slightly. Like I live near Harrogate, so I changed it to Harrowsgate. Yep, I do a very similar thing.
That's probably what Harrogate was before it was Harrowsgate. Just like Kendall was Kentdale, and a bunch of other town names. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I
use a bunch of Welsh names and Irish names personally. But...
Right. Yeah. I have in my homebrew world, I've sort of set a real world language equivalent to the fantasy languages. So Welsh, so Elvish is based on Welsh. Irish is what I use for Gnomish. I use German for my Dwarvish and that sort of thing. And so when it comes to if I'm naming a Dwarvish town, I will go, let's pick a town in Germany, and then I'll change a couple of letters around. I'll just like zoom in on a random part of the map of Germany and be like German, or I'll think about a German word like the Dwarvish town is where they mine silver. So I'll go, okay, silver mine. What's silver mine in German? And then I'll muck around with the letters of it. That's how I do it. The D&D question from Ajo. What's been the biggest yikes not to so far? So your biggest not to that has been a yikes kind of a moment.
Yeah, good question. Go check out my episode with Abyssal Brews from season 1 for the full story here. I'm not going to share details because it's their story to share, really. But basically, they didn't do a session 0 thoroughly enough. And this was a game with friends who they thought they knew really well. But one of the friends had recently had an experience in their life that was really traumatic. And in the first session of the game, this experience came up as part of the game they were playing, and it was really traumatic for the player, and she had a tough time with it. They eventually it was okay. Like Matthew, who was the one running the game, apologized a bunch and tried to make it right. But he said in the interview, he said that he didn't think that they would ever probably play together again, just because of how it went down. Yeah. So no matter how well you think you know the people you're playing with, even if they're family members, they've had experiences that you don't know about. So you just need to make sure that you ask everybody questions and make sure that you get a list of stuff that they really aren't comfortable with, so that you don't run into stuff like this. I've heard of people who in friendships because of this kind of thing. So yeah, you've always got to be careful. I'd say that's a big one.
The thing I've mentioned a few times that I don't really like the name Session 0, because I think it implies things that aren't true. It implies that it's before Session 1 and then that's it. Like the things that you might ask at a Session 0 perfectly well with all of your all the right intentions of like, what am I to avoid in this campaign, and everybody's like this and this and this and nothing else, I'm fine. And so you stay away from that, you're fine, and then you bring up something in Session 20 that has become a new problem for one of the players since the Session 0. They never mentioned it at Session 0 because either they didn't know it or it wasn't a problem at the time, and now it is. And then it becomes a problem. Like that happened in one of my games, but thankfully because I didn't approach them as like Session 0s, I approached them as like a Session X.5. Like every so often you just like check in and be like, is everybody still cool with this? You make sure that conversation, that open communication is there. So as soon as this sort of thing started to come up in the game, and it wasn't even the sort of thing, but it had the hints that it might become this sort of a plot line. He messaged me after the game and said, I just want to check that this is not going to become this sort of a plot line, because this has become a problem for me in recent days. And I said, yeah, okay, I'll steer away from that. I'll make sure that it doesn't go that direction.
Perfect example.
Siblanda asks, what character was the most fun to create and use in your games? Have you ever brought them back in later in the game?
NPCs or PCs?
PCs, NPCs, it doesn't say. So what was the most fun to create character?
Well, I had a lot of fun making my very first character, that Dragonborn Druid, and as a result, I do throw him into my current games when I
Nice.
can. As the druid that hangs out wherever I need a druid, there's
Nice.
always just this old crusty Dragonborn living in the woods who's helpful.
Nice.
So yeah, that'll be my answer.
Cool. My most fun character to create. I really enjoy my rogue gnome, who when I created him, I didn't put anything into Constitution. I just left it at a 10. And then when I leveled up to level 2, I rolled a 1 on my hit dice, so I got an extra 1 hit point. Then I went up to level 3, and I rolled a 1 on the hit dice again. And the DM was like, "Oh, that's harsh. I'll let you re-roll that." And I re-rolled it and got a 1. And she's like, "Well, you're sticking with it. Sorry, the dice want you to have it." So you start with 8 hit points as a rogue plus your con mod. I didn't have a con mod. Then I went up to 9 at level 2, 10 at level 3. So I was level 3 rogue with 10 hit points. And so that was a fun character to create because the dice were deciding for me that the sort of rogue I was going to be. I was like, all right, I guess I had in mind that I was maybe going to be the swashbuckler type, but I guess I'm going to be a ranged type because I can't be in melee. So he was fun, and I want to get back to playing him when I get the chance. But unfortunately, unfortunately in terms of the game, the GM is pregnant, and so who knows? Maybe in 18 years we'll get back to that game. Fancy asks, do you guys have a favorite NPC, and what are they?
Okay. I have one. It's his name is Terran Cobbleball. He's a gnome, and I made him the Minister of Law in a city my players were in. But the city had become corrupted with these magical crystals that were also in those ships that they sank. So he was stuck in this haze that was making him crazy, and he had built a bunch of constructs that were like doing stuff for him, like basically keeping him alive. But he had this book, and the trick about the book was he could talk with other errands from like the future, like future versions of himself,
Right.
and that's how he was so good at the law, is because they would find out whether or not the law had been broken and then just respond to him, and so he would know like who was telling the truth and whatnot instantly because his future selves do the research for him.
Right,
Anyway,
nice. That's smart. I love that.
I played him as like super crazy because the haze had been affecting his mental state, and so but he like convinced him to leave with them and get out of the city. He like made them present arguments, and like he had the other characters pretend to be the jury. He like basically said, "You're now the jury," and like I made them like do this little court session to like talk him into leaving the city, and it was super fun. So that's probably my favorite one.
Nice. Mine's a very egotistical law enforcement agent. There's a faction in my world called the Knights of Kavosna, and he's a Knight of Kavosna called Randall. And I put him in there specifically to be to sort of be the thorn in the paw of one of my players. I knew that he would hate him, and hate him he does, and it's always fun to bring him back in and see him groan and roll his eyes when he hears the voice. What's your beard care routine? So from how
wow,
not
what
to
a great
DM. What a great
question.
I let it grow and then shave it off. That's my routine. It just goes in cycles of like, man, this is too long, and then I'll shave it back. I just had green screen day the other day with the Viva La Dirt League thing, and I had to play a woman for it. I had to basically be in drag for a large portion of it because I'm playing all the NPCs in the green screen. And so
Amazing.
for a large portion of it, I knew that I was going to have to be this beautiful archfey woman. So I took it back to a proper clean shave. It's been so long since I've had a proper like clean shave because normally I just electric razor it, take it back as far as it goes, and then let it grow out again. I don't bother with my beard at all, but I should probably, because a lot of people say you look better with a beard. You look so baby faced without it, and all this. Should probably
I also have a
care of
baby
it.
face when I shave, so I think every man does. They just
What's your beard care routine?
I use Gibbs products exclusively. Not really, but yeah. I've
Hashtag
got some
sponsor.
beard. Not sponsored. I have some beard conditioner and oil that I really like, and a bamboo comb and brush set that keeps it nice and shiny and keeps the skin hydrated underneath. So that's my beard care routine.
That's good. So do you shampoo and condition it every time you shower?
I do condition it. I'll use like a little bit of shampoo. I try not to, just so that it doesn't dry it out. It's like my hair. I probably wash it every other shower, to be honest, just so that it doesn't dry out. Yeah.
Yeah, same. Lion XV asks, I'm starting a new campaign with 4 family members, 3 of which have never played before. Any tips to break them in gently? We kind of talked about this one already, but 4 family members. See if I can think of anything new that wasn't said last time. Just enjoy the game. Like, make sure that you're playing together. Make sure that they know that you're not against them, because that's one of the big things for new players, is that they'll often think like, oh, let's whisper about what our plans are to take on the Goblin Stronghold, so that the DM doesn't try and ruin our plans. Just try and nip those sorts of things in the bud early and be like, hey, if you let me know what your plan is, I'm not going to try and scup it. I'm going to try and help it to succeed. I can actually plan out, if your plan is to climb in through the upper window, I need to think about what room is upstairs and things. So that's a minor tip for you there.
I would say have the constant communication as well. Rob mentioned this, like, keep communicating about what's upcoming so that they know and they can fill you in if it's something they're not comfortable with. But also just make sure that they're having fun and that you're including each of them and giving each of them and their characters chances to engage in what their characters want to do. You have a rogue in the party, give them lots of interesting locked doors and situations to go scope out and sneak in and listen in on. You've got a cleric, give them chances to engage with their religion and with other people in their religion. You've got
chance to shine.
Yeah,
I always look at a player's character sheet before a game, and I go, oh, they've taken expertise in deception. I will give them at some point somebody that they can lie to.
Exactly.
I'll give them a guard that they can deceive their way past, because that's clearly them telling you, with the choices they've made, this is the sort of character I want to play.
That's how I want to have fun.
Spates has asked, player agency is so important in any game. How do you balance things like the sleep spell, where a player could be out of the game for an entire encounter? Very good question. How do you take away player agency while still allowing them to have fun?
I think I've used sleep before. I had a group of bards that would put everybody to sleep and then pick all their pockets and leave. Like traveling bards that would kind of say, "Let us perform for you." But my players were high enough level that no one failed the con save to sleep, so it didn't happen. But it's a good question, and I think
it is something that comes up a lot with like dominate spells as well. Like if your NPC bad guys use the dominate monster or dominate person, if any enchantments, command, suggestion, anything that takes away their turn, because generally speaking, as a rule of thumb, miss a turn is a bad game design. Like anything that in role to play games with your rolling dice and stuff. Anything that you like land on a space and you miss a turn, that's not a good game design, because it's not fun to play a game where you're not playing the game, where you're just watching other people play the game because of just random chance. I think with D&D it's not quite so bad, because in order to get into that situation, it's inherently some decisions that they've made that got them there. If you can forewarn or like hint that this person they're going up against is an enchanter and is likely to try and manipulate your minds and stuff, that's fun. If you've got if you've got a type of player who really enjoys the role play of like the PvP but doesn't want to PvP themselves, they're like, oh well, I still get to make my attack with the dominate monster or whatever. I get to still make my attack. It's just against my player, and then we get to have the nice juicy role play afterwards of like, what the hell was that about? Oh, it wasn't myself, I swear. Then some players are still going to enjoy that. Some players aren't. When it's something like sleep or hold monster, though, where your turn is just gone, it's hard. If they're unconscious, maybe you give them visions, like I do with my death saving throws. I ask for when it's a death saving throw, mechanically they just roll a death save and then we move on to the next person and they've missed the turn. So to try and keep them involved, I ask the person making death saves, give me your life as you're on death saving throws. Your life is flashing before your eyes. Give me one of the flushes? What's something that a memory from your childhood or whatever? It keeps them involved a little bit before we move on. So things like that.
Way to involve them.
Yeah, things to involve them. If they're going to be out for an entire encounter, maybe you give them control of one of the NPCs, one of the bad guys, and be like, "Hey, control this goblin for me," and you decide where they go. It's a tough one, Wraith. Whoever asked, Spates, and unfortunately, you just gotta work it out case by case with experience, I guess. Lots of chat questions today. Normally I don't get this much involvement, so thank you very much, chat. Wraith asked, "Hey Rob, can you answer this? You can answer this later. Have you used any narrative dice systems? I'm using the Fantasy Flight Games Star Wars system to make an Avatar: Last Airbender homebrew. I haven't used many of the TTRPGs myself. I did think about making an Avatar: Last Airbender into D&D a few years ago, manipulating the monk class and creating a bunch of bender classes, but I never got around to doing it.
There is an
dice.
Avatar game out there now.
There is, yeah.
But yeah, good question, Wraith. I've never played Fantasy Flight games either, so I'm sorry, I can't answer.
I haven't played narrative dice systems yet, but I would like to. I've played a bunch of different TTRPGs like Dread, which is a Jenga tower system, and I've played Through the Breach, which is a tarot card system, and I've played some Starfinder D&D.
Wraith is saying it wasn't them. Oh well.
It was Wraith suggested it from Steel Monkey. Thank you, Steel Monkey, for the question.
Oh, sorry.
Steel Monkey also asks, oh no, that was the same thing. Matt asked, question for both, what magic item was used in your game in a completely unexpected way? What magic item has been unexpectedly used? I'll go first then, because I got one in mind. I gave them the, I always forget what it's called, sovereign glue. The glue that can stick anything to anything.
Yes.
And I loved giving them it, even though it's like a legendary item. Excuse me, I've got really croaky all of a sudden. Even though it's a legendary item, I loved giving them it because it's a consumable item. So it's like, I want to see the amazing, weird, creative way that you can use this thing that, by definition, it's just glue. Like, it doesn't have a specific purpose in mind for like how you're going to break the game with it. It comes down entirely to your creativity of like what you want to do with it. And they were fighting two fire giants, and one of the fire giants was a dreadnought with two massive tower shields, and one of the things he can do is make a charge attack. He slams his shields into the ground and slams forwards, and it is a brutal attack. It's hey, FBGX, how's it going? She's the one who did this. They were fighting this fire giant with the shields. And one of the things it says is like you take fire damage, piercing damage, and bludgeoning damage from this spiked fiery shield smacking into you. And if you're already prone, you take a whole bunch more damage because it's basically smearing you across the canvas. It's like it's properly grinding you across the ground, which is a gross mechanic, but I love it. And they had already been subjected to this and almost died from fall, so they were like, we don't want to do that again. So they quickly just got the sovereign glue out and made a line across the floor, and then one of them like taunted him and was like, come at me, and the guy like charged forwards, and as soon as it hit the glue, psh, I hand waved the fact that like it's meant to take a minute to set, like you have to be in contact with it for a full minute. I hand waved that because it was creative and awesome and I loved it. And this tower giant's shield, boof, he just slammed into this glue and just got stuck onto the ground, and now his tower shields are stuck. And not only have they nerfed his one major attack, but now he has to take an action to unequip both shields. And so he's like trying his best to unstrap himself from these massive shields while they're running around the back and stab in the Achilles tendons. It was very clever. Very clever.
Nice. Mine is probably a homebrew item. This was right after I finished with The Lost Mine, and I said, all right, now we're going to go do pirate stuff. Gave them a compass, and they would... 3 times a day they could put in a gold coin and ask it the location of anything on the same plane, and it would point in that direction. But like way too powerful to get to a level 5 party. I did it because I wanted to kind of railroad them into like going to the next island and the next island and getting this MacGuffin and then that MacGuffin and like knowing where to find them.
Right.
I probably should have just done treasure maps. I don't know why I didn't do that. Anyway,
you could have made it that the more the more powerful the item is that you're looking for, the higher the gold coin. Like you need a platinum coin,
or like
instead
roll
of,
a D100 to see if it works. That
yeah,
kind of thing. That
or
would've been
or
good
it
too.
gives you like it's got an error. It's got an error bar of like this much. Like if you want to go for this next huge MacGuffin, if you want to jump right to the end, because I didn't think of that. Oh crap! Then you've got to put in a special electrum piece, and then they've got to go on a quest to find the right coin to put into the compass.
All great ideas, all things that I did not think of as a fledgling DM. So I gave this to them. Luckily, they don't use it too much, but like anytime they ever want to know where anybody is or like determine if someone is who they say they are, they just whip it out, put in a gold coin, and they can figure out like, oh no, that's a doppelganger because they're like over there.
You've given them like a skirt around so many different puzzles thing. You need to. They're pirates, man. You need to have them
where the next quest is.
They're pirates, so you just need to have them attacked by pirates, and the pirate steals this from them. I'll take that compass, and I'll be on my way.
I'll nerf it, and then I'll give it back to you.
Yeah. All right. Last couple of questions then, because we're over time, I realise, but this has been a long, fun conversation. Mythical asked, favourite places in your setting or official places? Ooh. I don't really use official settings. So.
Funny enough, I used the I don't remember what I named this town, but I designed a town in between two walls of a cliff along the shoreline of a new continent that they were coming to explore. So there's kind of these two cliff faces that wind their way back, and then there's a river that comes down it. But the whole city is built into these cliff walls, and then there are these. I did a bunch of research about like the way the wind interacts with cliff faces and stuff, and so it's a gnome city, and so they built all these huge fans that spin in the wind as the wind blows up the cliff face, and that's what runs the whole city. It all runs on this wind power. And they've got a bunch of bridges and stuff that crisscross across it, and it looks really cool from the base. Like as you're sailing in, it's just this whole city into these two cliff faces. So that's my favorite spot.
It's reminding me. It's making me think of some of the places in Raft. Have you ever played Raft? It's a survival crafting game. It's kind of like a water world situation. It's a post-apocalyptic situation. The world is flooded, and all that's left is this like debris. You pick up the debris, you build a bigger raft. But there is like a story to it, and every so often you can come across an island that's like has some story elements of like humans that have what happened to the humans and stuff, and there's one that's basically this island of crisscrossing bridges and things between the shipping containers that people used to live in. Fantastic, beautiful visual as you're approaching this island sailing in. That's what it made me think of. But yeah, that's awesome. I love that the idea of like crisscrossing bridges between like two cliff face town. And it's super defensible as well, because you only really have to build a wall on one end of each end of the town, and then you have to think about like what do they do to prevent bad guys from dropping in or dropping boulders on them and stuff.
Yep. That's where all the farms are, up on the plateau.
Nice.
That provide for the city.
One of my favorite places in my homebrew world is a city called Whitecraft, which is the place of uber magic and uber wealthy. It's where the 1% live, because I put it on the end of a peninsula that you have to get up through like a dangerous mountain path to get to, and so the uber wealthy live there because the taxman just can't be bothered going there. Like it's too dangerous for the king. It's genuinely just a too dangerous journey for the king to send taxmen to go to the city. So they're just like, don't worry about it. And so the uber wealthy moved there and set up this hugely magical place, and it's where all of like it's where I can go a little bit more technologically advanced if I want to have Warforged. The Warforged live in Whitecraft because it's where this most wealthy class would live and stuff. Yeah, that's a fun place. Then Lion X asks, how do you keep puzzles in that sweet spot instead of too easy or hard? Ooh, good question. Whew.
This is a good question.
Because like, how do you not give them the puzzle of that's like puzzling them as a player, and they're like, but my wizard's got 20 intelligence. Why does he not just get it? A lot of it comes down to your players and whether or not they enjoy it. Yeah,
I try to shy away from like written, like actual riddles that they have to solve, but I'll give them like kind of visual ones. One of my favorite examples of an interesting puzzle is from a podcast called Sneak Attack, but I think he ripped it off from a Zelda game with like a bunch of big fans that are blowing you constantly off these pillars, and you got to like move around to the right pillars and click the right buttons. to get moved to the next spot. I think those are fun. I think clock puzzles can be fun, but yeah, as far as like too hard or too easy, oftentimes the traps and stuff, it's just like setting a DC and you figure out if they can meet the DC or not, and that way you're not going to kill them
Yeah.
you can kind of plan for how difficult you want to make it. Um, Puzzles though are harder. I do a lot of elemental stuff just
Yeah,
because that's
elemental
easy.
stuff.
Like I try to lean on tropes, Indiana Jones puzzles,
Yeah.
stuff from like
You've
what's
there's
it called?
two there's
National
two
Treasure.
elements. You've got to decide, is it going to be something that they know what they've got to do and the puzzle is just working out how to do it, or is part of the puzzle working out what they've even got to do? Are you going to walk them into a room and have a riddle written on the door of exactly what they've got to do, or are you going to walk them into a blank room and just describe things and they're like, start doing stuff, and they're like, I don't even know what we've got to do. Maybe we've got to put things on this platform. That's a different level of the puzzle. So the way I tend to do it, if I use puzzles and riddles, which I only use if the party has told me that they want, it's part of my my session zeros and my check-ins, is to say like, how much do you like puzzles, riddles, mini games, those sorts of things, in character and out of character. Do you want me to actually hand you a physical puzzle that you have to solve at the table before your characters can get it, or are you not into that sort of gameplay? If they are, then the puzzles that I tend to use, I make them as hard as I can make them, and then I put in my notes a series of like hints, a series of what I will do to make this slightly easier, and then I'll give them the hardest setting that I can give them, and if they're not having fun with it or it's taking too long, then I'll give them a hint, and then I'll give them another hint, or if I give them the puzzle and they're like, then I'm like, all right, well, let's jump to the solution. So I guess that's how I balance it, by just starting at this end and just like slowly working my way in until I find that balance. Excellent. Well, that's all the questions from the chat, and that's all the time we've got. I've got to shoot off and do things today. I'm sure you've got things to do for the rest of your evening. So we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for joining me, Derrick. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you again. If you guys want to hear us having another chat, there is an episode of How Not to DM with me on it. You should definitely go and check out some of the other episodes on How Not to DM as well. All of them have something you can pick up on, a lot of wonderful tips and tricks, and just general nice conversation. Is there anything else you want to push towards, or anything you want to say about where people can find your stuff or anything like that?
So Linktree is on the overlay here. Linktree /HN the number 2 DM. I'm most active on Twitter, and it's the same thing, HN the number 2 DM. You can find me there, hang out, chat with me, ask me questions, whatever you want to do. I do have a Discord where we can kind of chat about the show as well. If you want some sneak peeks into who my upcoming guests are going to be, or you want to help me decide on what questions to ask my upcoming guests, you can join my Patreon, and there's a patron level there for influencing the show. And then I chatted about this a little bit with Robert in the middle of the show, but my season 3 is coming out. That's coming on September 14th or 15th, depending on where in the world you live. That's 14th for most of the population of the world, though. It'll be noon British summertime, 7 a.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. for Singapore and people in Manila. So you can figure it out from those times, hopefully. And I have a couple of bonus episodes that are going to be dropping in the next couple of weeks here before season 3 drops too. So be on the lookout for those bonus episodes. Like we said, Robert and I had a great chat during season 2, so you should go start there if you haven't listened to the show yet, and then you can pick and choose.
And if you liked the Quickfire Chaos Shrek and Mermaid thing that we were doing here, that's just my homage to something that Derrick has been doing since season 2.
Slow Ice Law.
Slow Ice Law. So that's an homage to what Derrick's been doing since season 2 with all of his guests. So there's lots of those sorts of fun encounters.
You can start wherever too. There's no like continuity needed. You can listen to whatever episodes in whatever order, whatever tickles your fancy, whatever sounds interesting to you. So yeah, check it out.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Well, we'll leave it there then. Is there anyone that you know that is streaming that you want to raid? I always like to give it the option to my guests.
You are the only person I am following right now that is live.
There you go then.
No.
We have, let's see, I have Joe Cat, Brett Ultimas, Pax. The Welcome Inn. Let's
Joe Cat's on my list to reach out to. Actually.
Yeah, Joe Cat. I love his stuff. He's on my list as well of people I'd love to have on as a short rest one day. Love his work. Let's raid the Welcome Inn. The Welcome Inn, which I think is a fantastic
thanks everybody.
Name. I love it. The Welcome Inn. It's so clever. All right, thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time, everybody. Bye bye.
Pleasure. Bye.
Wait. Stop. Before you go, let me know your favorite part of the episode in the comments below. Thank you.